Alright everyone, it's time to talk about Kid Rock because a lot of people are muttering about the possibility of him running for the Senate. Now, of course, people who don't like his sort of working class rock approach to marketing himself are saying, oh, he'd be like a Ted Nugent Rube or something like that. Have you ever even heard him speak? He's more intelligent than his on-stage persona suggests. The fact that he subsidizes beer costs at his concert says, I think, more about maybe his musical talent than it does about his personality. And he comes off as a likable guy, and that's really all you need, by the way, in this modern era. And I'll tell you why he should run. And my opinion is Kid Rock should run. Take it seriously, make a real run, put yourself out there, get into these debates, lambaste career politicians, and you've got it. You've got a very good chance of winning and actually going to the Senate. Be very sure, though, that you actually want to go to D.C. You're going to have to hang out with a lot of crooked individuals. You're going to have to hang out with corporate lawyers and people that any sane, reasonable human being has nothing in fucking common with. So keep that in mind. You're going to have to deal with the smell of the swamp there for an extended period of time. You know, you want to get the capstone of your legacy. Hey, I ran for office and won. I was a senator. Go for it for success's sake. But again, there are repercussions. You have to go to fucking D.C. I'd think that'd be a punishment worse than death, I would think. I don't know why anybody would want a job in D.C. It's like when people say, oh, Stick should run for, like when Bernie Sanders leaves, should run for Senate seat. Never gonna happen. Not in a million years would I even attempt it. I don't even want to visit D.C., let alone have to relocate there for an extended period. Just not my forte there. But I suggest that Kid Rock take it very seriously and should probably run. And if he does, he's got a good chance of winning, and I'll tell you why. In the past, an individual would have had to have been very, very wealthy, self-funded, and have considerable media connections or political connections in order to get into office. If you look at the composition of D.C., you're looking at a lot of corporate lawyers. You know, you're not public defenders, but corporate lawyers, people who defend companies that kill thousands of people or something. Or career carpetbag politicians who happen to be drug buddies or sex buddies with someone who was established within politics. Or somebody who spent 30 years working their way up through government anyway and has no private experience. And essentially, a lot of the people you've got in D.C. are human scum. They're human waste. They are the dregs of society. Celebrities and entertainers sound much better on it. Even if they're like left-leaning, they'd still be more intelligent half the time. And so I think there's no problem with that. But here's why it's suddenly possible for them to do that. And Trump didn't cause this, but he is a symptom of this general phenomenon. For the first time, it's possible for people who only have marginal wealth and a decent working knowledge of social media and a decent general reception of their content, someone who has marginal celebrity status, it's possible for them to run for office for the first time. Because as we saw in the last election, you can be outraised and outspent many times over, and your opponent can wine and dine and be good friends with the entire corporate media, and it may not save their campaign because so many people are getting their news from people with webcams or blogs or something like that. As such, if Kid Rock had run 8 years ago for office, he wouldn't have gotten anywhere. He would have come in like 4th place or something. Because he doesn't have those corporate ties. Which means that if, some corporate candidate were running, then unless the establishment thought it was funny to have Kid Rock in the Senate, they wouldn't allow him to win. They would simply browbeat him day in and day out, then shut him out, ignore him, and nobody would even remember he was running. They can't do that anymore. Because somebody online will talk about it. Somebody on satellite radio will talk about it. And because of clickbaity things, some people will take it as a joke, and they'll talk about it a lot and laugh about it, and then they'll find out it's serious. They'll continue talking about it because they've built sort of a mini platform on just talking about that one issue. And so it becomes unavoidable. The media will have to talk about it because people are doing so online. They can't ignore them anymore. So Kid Rock, who has a decent degree of wealth and a decent amount of name recognition, would have a considerable advantage, especially since he's never held office before. And he doesn't have to go suck off corporations for the position. He can self-fund, or he could go online and have a GoFundMe if he wanted to. And people can fund that and talk about it online. The idea that you have to have millions of dollars to purchase slews and slews of cable TV ads, you don't even have to worry about buying ads on TV if you're running for office now. You can do it all online, and you can do it for free. So, as long as Kid Rock is willing to say a few off-the-wall things and be his typical on-stage persona, he can win. And I encourage him to take that very seriously. Now, what happens in the future? Right now, you would still have to have enough funding to, do a few things here and there with the political establishment. Kid Rock certainly has millions of dollars. The average person doesn't, though. But those gates are opening too, and there's going to come a time within the next decade in which anybody with substantial name recognition online only is going to be capable of running for office too. You've got a multiplying effect, where in the past, the only audience that was really concerned about any but the most major elections, we're talking like the presidency, was limited to people within the state that was going to vote for a candidate and people in maybe a few surrounding areas, unless there was something very, very newsworthy going on in the race, in which case it becomes national or perhaps international news, some major scandal or some really, really good soaring speech. It had to be something exceptional. That's not the way the news works anymore. Now it's international no matter what the topic is. It's international news if someone goes cow tipping, because somebody can talk about it to an international audience. That then feeds back into things. What happens is, for instance, some local politician does something corrupt. Somebody talks about it online to 500,000 people. All of a sudden, other people are attempting to troll that individual. They're making the prank calls, and they're reposting and sharing things, and they're making their own videos and blog posts about how funny they found it. And so populations that don't even really have anything to do with the situation can weigh in on that subject. And they can do it very easily and instantaneously. They can use Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Gab, VidMe, wherever it happens to be, Minds. So if Kid Rock runs, it won't just be people within his state talking about the race. It's already national news. And people talk about it online. That gives him a huge advantage. The fact that he happens to be Kid Rock alone gives him an advantage. People online will be pulling for him because they're going to prefer him over, some corporate lawyer who's running against him or some idiot banker or something like that. And that's just the way modern politics are. Scott Adams alluded to this in his concept of the democratization of politics within the Western world. And I think it goes a little bit further than that, but what he's saying is fundamentally true. Because of the online world being so decentralized, because of the rise of an entirely new class of many tens of thousands of people with substantial worldwide audiences who have virtually no overhead in generating those audiences, the old guard media is dying off. Their importance is waning. It's never been as high as it was in the past. It's never going to be tomorrow it will be lower than it is today, and that trend will continue largely for some time to come until cable is nothing more than an interesting relic where people run the same old shows into the ground over and over. On demand and YouTube and things like that will displace cable. Services online will displace and have been displacing radio. It's just, if you look at terrestrial radio and its decline over the last 10 years because of online streaming and people put music, they use their phones for music now and stuff like that, or file sharing services. If you look at the decline of terrestrial radio, you're looking at what cable will be in 10 years. It will decline to the point where it becomes virtually irrelevant for politics. Within just 10 years. That's the timeline you're looking at. Maybe a decade and a half if they're lucky. So my advice to Kid Rock is, you've got every possible advantage. People are already talking about celebrity politicians. You should run. The Rock should try to run. Yeah, he should throw his hat in the ring too. Arnold Schwarzenegger should run for office again. All of these people should be running, and people with large platforms online and businesses, and they can self-fund to some degree. They should all be running too. The way to drain the swamp is to get rid of all the corporate lawyers and cronyistic bankers and wackadoodles in DC by primarying them all and kicking them out of office to get an entirely new class of individuals involved. And these people largely come from backgrounds, by the way, that are reliant upon anti-censorship rhetoric. If you're making music and it's not the most tame shit that you've ever heard, you probably don't want the FCC slapping warning labels all over your stuff and banning it from the radio. If you're online and you're talking about politics or anything loosely associated with it, you definitely don't want a bunch of online censorship. I think it would be very good for the country if these classes of individuals found their way into office. Again, as opposed to people from old dying segments of the economy that have no real relevance anymore, they're all slimy. Kid Rock would probably do a better job. He probably would. Now, I'm not part of his constituency, so I wouldn't be able to vote for him, but I can make videos supporting his run. I can certainly do that to plenty of people, including some that are his potential constituents. Other people will do the same. And at the very least, it'll be entertaining, as opposed to politics of the 90s or something. So boring. Nobody wants to watch that stuff. There's a reason that the number of people voting declined steadily over that period of time, because it got so boring. One person arguing for high taxes against another person arguing for high taxes. One person arguing for common sense gun control against another. One person arguing for we need more censorship because my reasons against another person doing the same thing. It's all a scam. That's about all. Peace out.